What is she doing behind the scenes?
Well, what she's doing behind the scenes is not only she's standing by her man, she's calling up members of Congress defending her husband, the president, and saying, in fact, that she thinks there's no basis for impeachment. She did that with Congressman Jim Moran, a Democrat who's been one of the president's harshest critics and is nearby here in Virginia. The other thing that might be happening is that women lawmakers are encouraging the First Lady to come up to the Hill and speak with the entire Democratic caucus. She's rallying the troops at a time that is the most crucial point probably in her husband's presidency as this House looks to go forward perhaps with impeachment hearings. Last week, more than 24 Democratic women lawmakers went to the White House residence. They met with the First Lady. They said that they were so enthused that she brought so much energy to the room. She refocused them on the issues. That's exactly what a dispirited, disunified party right now is looking for.
Nora O'Donnell of Roll Call, a newspaper that covers Capitol Hill, talking with Matt Lauer in September 1998, months before the impeachment vote. Being married to Bill Clinton has taught Hillary Clinton plenty about impeachment. But the fact is, she was an expert on the subject even before they got married. Dateline's Chris Hansen explains.
In the darkest days of her husband's presidency, she has been the picture of poise, the very definition of strength.
And I'm very proud of the person I'm privileged to introduce. I'm proud of his leadership. I'm proud of his commitment.
But for Hillary Rodham Clinton, 1998 will be the year that Bill Clinton's presidency, the presidency she fought so hard to win,
The next president of the United States
came under fierce attack. The kind of attack that another man and another presidency endured more than 20 years ago.
Tonight, let me explain to you what I did about Watergate after the break-in occurred, so that you can better understand the fact that I also had no knowledge of the so-called cover-up.
In a curious and ironic way, Hillary Rodham Clinton had a front row seat on history then, too. That's her at a House Judiciary Committee hearing, all of 26 years old, a young attorney hired on the committee's impeachment inquiry staff. It was a bipartisan group of 43 hand-picked lawyers whose job it was to determine whether there were grounds for the House of Representatives to impeach President Richard Nixon.
She was extremely bright, extremely able, worked extremely hard.
John Leibovitz worked on that inquiry staff with Hillary Rodham, as did William Weld, the future Republican governor of Massachusetts, and Bernard Nussbaum, who would later follow Hillary Clinton to the White House. In their research of history, Leibovitz says he and Rodham and a handful of other attorneys produced this report, which outlined the constitutional basis for impeachment. They concluded that not all presidential misconduct is grounds for impeachment. It has to be conduct seriously incompatible with the constitutional duties of the presidential office. And the 43 lawyers on the impeachment inquiry staff, including Hillary Rodham, helped prepare the House Judiciary Committee's final report on President Nixon's impeachment. It contains the evidence and legal reasons supporting the 3 articles of impeachment approved by the committee: obstruction of justice, abuse of presidential powers, and contempt of Congress. Some of the same charges now surrounding the man who would become Hillary Rodham's husband.
We need Shakespeare to write the play that could illuminate this irony for us, because it's an incredible irony.
Evan Davis served on that elite team of inquiry lawyers as well. He headed a task force that looked into Watergate and the cover-up.
Who could have imagined that 24 years later, she would be the wife of a president for whom an impeachment was going on, inquiry was going on, and these same issues were coming up again. It is an ironic situation, and I'm sure the irony of it is not lost at all on Hillary herself.
And it may not be lost on Bill Clinton as well. Listen to what he told a reporter back in 1974 when asked about President Nixon's troubles. "I think that the definition should include any criminal acts, plus a willful failure of the president to fulfill his duty to uphold and execute the laws of the United States." Clinton went on to say another factor that I think constitutes an impeachable offense would be willful, reckless behavior in office. That was back when Bill Clinton was first making a name for himself in politics, running for Congress and commuting to Washington to visit Hillary Rodham while she was working for the Judiciary Committee.
She brought him around at one point, and we were able to say hello to him. She was obviously quite proud and quite enamored of him.
The rest is history. Hilary Rodham went on to marry Bill Clinton. Soon enough, she was the First Lady of Arkansas.
Well, I like being married to Bill Clinton, you know, whether he was the governor or not.
But being married to Bill Clinton, curiously, has brought Hilary Rodham Clinton full circle to confront a thorny issue she thought she dealt with once and for all 24 years ago, never anticipating the possibility that there would be a second impeachment proceeding in this century, and that she would be in the middle of both of them.
When it came to computers, I was so far behind the times.
You know, many people have looked to the First Lady to take a cue how she reacted, and certainly in your interview with her as she spoke out against Ken Starr, that has certainly changed a lot of the dialogue, and so I don't think we can underestimate certainly her being a very close political ally of her president and certainly now becoming one of his chief lobbyists.
Journalist Norah O'Donnell reminding Matt Lauer of an interview he's not likely to forget. His conversation with Hillary Clinton in January 1998, just days after the Lewinsky story broke. The First Lady's composure and confidence throughout the interview was remarkable, but she could not completely hide her anger at Kenneth Starr. Before we go, let's take another look.
This started out as an investigation of a failed land deal. I told everybody in 1992, we lost money. People said, it's not true, you know, they made money, they have money in a Swiss bank account. Well, it was true. It's taken years, but it was true. We get a politically motivated prosecutor who is allied with the right-wing opponents of my husband, who has literally spent 4 years looking at every telephone...
$30 million.
And more than that now, but looking at every telephone call we've made, every check we've ever written, scratching for dirt, intimidating witnesses, doing everything possible to try to make some accusation against my husband.
We're talking about Kenneth Starr, so let's use his name because he is the independent counsel.
But it's the whole operation. It's not just one person. It's an entire operation.
Has your husband, though, through some of his actions, possibly made it easier for those people to attack him?
Well, you know, Matt, that's a tough question because I can remember in Bill's very first race in 1974, there was a great effort against him then. One of the funniest things that ever happened, although at the time it wasn't funny, is that the people who were against him claimed that he'd been up in a tree demonstrating against President Nixon during the Texas-Arkansas football game in 1969. It didn't matter that he was in England at the very day listening to the game on shortwave radio. They took a picture out of a newspaper, they cut the head off the man who was in the tree, they put Bill Clinton's head on it, they printed thousands of them, they passed them out in every country church and every country store so that you had hundreds and thousands of people believing this. Now, I have to say, I don't know what it is about my husband that generates such hostility, but I have seen it for 25 years.
Based on what you know now, 5 years after coming to Washington, the personal attacks, the political attacks, do you sit home at night and think it's worth it? It has been worth it?
I do, Matt, and I'll tell you why. Obviously, I've thought a lot about that because this has been a grueling ordeal, and it has required every bit of religious faith and spiritual resources Bill and I have. It has been an incredible personal challenge. But I think about it in two ways. I believe the country is better off because my husband has been president. I think the economy, the crime rate, a lot of the social problems were finally addressed with a smart strategy, and we've seen the results. And, you know, just yesterday in New York, I mean, in elevators and in a hotel, you know, waiters, other people came up to me, grabbed my hands and said, you tell the president to stand firm, we need him, he's on our side. He is on the side of the American people. So when I balance what he's accomplished and the hope he's given to people and the way the economy has created opportunities for people, against all of the challenges we've been through personally, it is worth it. Now, do I wish that we didn't live in a time where people were so malicious and evil-minded? Of course, but you know, that's human nature. So you take the good with the bad, and the good has far, far outweighed any bad at all.
Hillary Clinton, at the beginning of 1998, steadfast in her belief that the good in coming to Washington outweighed the bad. The remarkable, revealing, even inspiring thing about her is that despite all that has happened since, she probably still feels the same way. That's Time and Again for now. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jane Pauley, and we're History.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.